There's a moment when he's not just inside your body, but inside your heart, emotionally wide open. And in that quiet but electric space, one single sentence can shift everything. Say the right thing, and he won't just remember the sex. He'll remember you. Not for a day, not for a month, but sometimes for the rest of his life. Because when a man is inside you, he's not only seeking release, even if he doesn't say it, even if he doesn't know it himself, he's reaching for something deeper. He's searching for meaning, for emotional gravity, for something that tells him this moment matters, that he matters. And in that raw, stripped down space, words become something more than sounds. They become truth. They cut past his skin and go straight into his soul. Say the right thing in that exact moment, and it echoes in him for years, maybe forever. There's a reason some memories stay locked inside a man's mind, like they're stitched into his bones. And often, it's not because of how a woman looked or what she did. It's because of how she made him feel, and the words she spoke when he was most open. Because when you're joined with him like that, when your bodies are tangled and your breath becomes one rhythm, what you say in that moment carries weight. It becomes sacred. It's in those seconds when the world drops away. No more pressure, no more deadlines, no more shame, just skin and breath and truth. And in that stillness, your voice isn't just heard, it's felt, deep. And when you whisper something like, "I want to feel every part of you right now," it's not just sexy, it's soul-altering. You're not just asking for him, you're calling to him. You're showing him that your desire isn't filtered, isn't polite, isn't packaged to look a certain way. It's raw, it's real, and it's powerful. That kind of line, it cracks the surface of everything he thought he knew about sex. It tears down performance, it removes ego, it brings him back to himself. Suddenly, he's no longer performing or doing what he thinks he's supposed to do. He's present, awake, with you. Most people go through intimacy like they're half asleep, repeating patterns, going through the motions. But when you drop a sentence like that, with intensity in your voice and heat in your gaze, he wakes up, his mind clears, his focus narrows. You become his whole world in that moment. And that's the secret most people miss. Men are starving for presence. They're pulled in 1,000 directions every day, but in your bed, in your arms, in that one breathless second, you can give him something he can't even name but will never stop craving. Complete focus, total connection. You become the lightning strike that grounds him, the stillness that electrifies him, the reason his breath hitches and his eyes close, not from effort, but from being overwhelmed emotionally. And you say, "I want to feel every part of you right now." You're also saying, "I'm here fully. I'm not comparing. I'm not pretending. I'm in this moment, and I want all of you." It pulls him out of insecurity. It drops his walls. It tells him he doesn't need to impress you. He just needs to be with you, fully, honestly. And when a man feels that kind of permission, that kind of emotional safety, something changes. He gives more, not because he has to, but because he wants to. Because now it's not just physical, it's emotional, it's real. The connection becomes something else entirely. He starts feeling your words in his chest. Your voice becomes a kind of invitation, one that says you don't have to perform here, you just have to feel here. And more than the chemistry, it's that sentence, that emotional nakedness that stays with him long after your bodies part. Because you didn't just make noise. You didn't say something rehearsed. You didn't flatter. You declared something real, something sacred. And men don't forget. sacred things. They don't forget when a woman speaks from her soul. That line, spoken with fire, with truth, with no filter, becomes etched in time. He might forget the sheets, he might forget the music, but he won't forget the moment he felt claimed. Not used, not tolerated, but chosen. There's a deep kind of power in a woman who speaks her desire without shrinking, without softening it to make it more digestible. That energy shifts something inside a man. It creates a new standard, one where sex is not just an act, it's a ceremony. One where he's not just trying to do well, but trying to feel something real. And the truth is, he'll chase that feeling, even if he doesn't know why, even if he never tells a soul. He'll carry that sentence in the back of his mind like a secret he visits in the dark. Because in a world full of shallow touch and empty compliments, you gave him something else. You gave him meaning. It's what no one tells you. Most men don't just want to be wanted. They want to feel important. Not in a way that feeds arrogance, but in a way that says, you matter here. This moment means something because you're in it. And your voice, your truth, it gave him that gift. In that room, you turned the act into something holy. You turned the moment into a memory. You turned the man seeking pleasure into a man discovering presence. And long after life throws him back into noise and stress and routine, that line, that whisper from your soul, it stays. It becomes a compass, a quiet, pulsing reminder of what it feels like to be truly seen, truly touched, not just skin to skin, but heart to heart. Not because it was just hot, but because it was honest, and real honesty spoken at the height of intimacy. That's what burns into a man's memory. That's what makes you unforgettable. Because in that one moment, you didn't just touch his body, you reached into a deeper part of him. A part that's usually hidden, a part that's often hurting, a part that simply wants to feel chosen. Not because he won, not because he proved himself, but because he was enough. And that's what that sentence gave him. Something beyond the physical. Something that no perfect move or flawless night can replace. Truth. Most men carry their feelings quietly, tucked deep inside. Because even if he doesn't say it out loud, he wonders. He wonders if he's truly enough, if his presence really matters, if he stands apart from the men who came before him in your story. And in that vulnerable moment when he's inside you, when your bodies are having a conversation, your mouths often don't know how to speak, that one simple sentence can wrap around his soul like a soft, sacred vow. You've just told him, without needing a ceremony or a script, that this connection, right here, right now, is nothing like what came before. And in that moment, he's no longer just a man in your bed. He becomes the man in your life. This isn't about tricking him. It's not about trying to control him. It's about reaching the deepest part of him, the part that wants to feel unforgettable. Not for what he can offer, not for what he does, but for who he is. When you say that to him, you're not complimenting his moves or skills. You're honoring his energy, his presence. And that kind of recognition carries a power that can't be overstated. The truth is, most men walk through life comparing themselves silently to others. They measure their value by how much they earn, how strong they appear, how much admiration they receive from the outside world. But even the man who seems totally confident on the outside still wonders deep down, am I really different? Am I special to the woman I give myself to? So, when you look into his eyes, voice shaking slightly from truth, not performance, and saying, no one has ever made me feel this way, you do something nearly divine. You pull him out of the shadows of his doubts, his fears, his old wounds. And in that breath, he no longer has to compete. He no longer needs to prove. He's no longer chasing. He's arrived. He becomes the one, not because he asked for that title, but because you gave it to him freely. And that generosity, that honesty, does something rare. It imprints itself on his memory. That one line doesn't fade. A man may forget flattering words, he may forget the curve of your smile, or even the sound of your laugh. But the moment a woman makes him feel truly irreplaceable, that doesn't leave him. That moment stays etched into the background of his thoughts. It becomes a quiet anchor, a memory that whispers back to him when he least expects it, when he's driving alone, when he's lying awake in the dark, or when he's sitting across from another woman wondering why something feels off, why it doesn't feel the same, because what you gave him wasn't about technique, it was about meaning. And meaning is what stays. It's what men crave underneath all the surface noise. That moment, that line, it's rare. And because it's rare, it becomes precious. You gave him something most people are too afraid to give, your truth, your vulnerability. You told him, without fear, that he has reached something in you no one else ever could. Not because you're weak, but because you're strong enough to speak the truth. Because you're brave enough to show your heart without armor. That's real feminine strength. And it draws a man in far deeper than sex ever could. It leads him to connection, to tenderness, to something close to reverence. Because in your voice, he doesn't just hear flattery. He hears something so much more important. He hears acceptance. He hears, I see you, I feel you, you matter. That's the emotional safety most men never find, and here's what most women don't realize. Men may remember the women they had fun with, they may remember the ones they were excited by, but they cherish the one who made them feel chosen, truly chosen. That sentence, no one has ever made me feel like this, becomes a kind of echo in his life. It shifts how he views you, it softens him, it makes him reach for you differently, he holds you with more care, he looks at you with more depth, because something deep inside him now believes she's different. She's the one who saw the real me. Not because you tried to impress him, but because you were honest, because you were present. And in doing so, you didn't just flatter his ego, you touched his soul. You made a moment eternal. You gave him something more lasting than beauty, more magnetic than desire, more unforgettable than any performance. You gave him a glimpse of what it means to be truly seen, and in return, you became unforgettable. There's something quietly life-changing in that moment when a woman bridges the gap between the physical and the emotional, when she whispers something like, I feel so close to you like this. It's not just a soft phrase, it's a key that unlocks something inside him that's been waiting, often in silence. She's not just giving him affection, she's giving him trust. She's letting him in. And that moment, spoken through a soft breath and an open gaze, changes everything, because most men have been taught to keep things separate. Emotion over here, sex over there. Keep it neat, keep it clean. Don't feel too much, don't show too much. But when you look him in the eye and say, this makes me feel safe, it disarms all of that. It breaks down years of silent walls. It tells him, this is real. This is not just about bodies moving. This is connection. This is presence. And that's the thing. This line doesn't need to be grand or poetic. Its power is in its honesty. Because when a woman dares to connect love with lust, right in the middle of the act, she teaches him something new. She redefines what it means to be with someone. For a man who has learned to separate his feelings for safety or survival, that moment feels like a kind of awakening. You're not just saying he pleases you, you're saying he brings you closer to something real, something emotional, something lasting. And what that does, deep inside his masculine heart, is powerful. He may have come into that space looking for release, for intensity, for fire, but what he leaves with, if you speak from that place of raw truth, is a feeling of being deeply needed, deeply chosen, deeply felt. That's rare. And because it's rare, he won't stop thinking about it. You didn't just give him sex, you gave him a place to rest his soul. Think of how rare that is in the world today. So many people touch without feeling. So many couples share beds but not hearts, share time but not presence. And yet here you are, wrapped around him, not just giving your body but your essence, your soul, your truth. You're telling him through your voice, your breath, your eyes, this is where I feel safe, this is where I feel seen, this is where I feel whole. And for him, that changes everything. Because once a man begins to connect emotional safety with physical closeness, something inside him shifts forever. He can never fully go back to just casual intimacy without feeling the empty space of what's now missing. That invisible ache stays with him. You, in that vulnerable, charged moment, become the standard. You become the quiet comparison that every other connection after you gets silently measured against. You're no longer just someone who gave him pleasure. You're the woman who gave meaning to the passion. You turned desire into something deeper. And here's where it goes even further. That line you speak doesn't make you look desperate. It doesn't make you weak. It makes you unforgettable. It makes you powerful, because you're not just giving yourself to the moment, you're shaping it, you're guiding it. You've taken what could have been a brief spark and turned it into something lasting, something that stays with him even when you're gone. When you say, I feel so close to you like this, you're not begging, you're not hoping for validation. You're defining the moment, you're shaping the connection, you're showing him that you're brave enough to tie your heart to your body and not flinch. You're letting him know that your softness isn't weakness, it's your strength. And that strength, when revealed in such a raw moment, becomes something rare. Something he may only experience once, but will long for again and again. That single sentence gives him more than affection. It gives him emotional permission, something he rarely receives. In that space, in that softness, he's allowed to simply be. He doesn't have to act tough. He doesn't need to stay in control. He's free to feel everything without needing to hide behind performance. And when a man is wrapped in emotional safety, in the arms of a woman who genuinely wants him, not just physically, but soulfully, he changes. His instincts shift. He softens. He becomes more attentive, more present. He listens deeper, because you've shown him that true intimacy isn't about power. It's about presence. It's not about taking. It's about feeling. It's not about performing. It's about showing up. Fully and honestly. You've told him, without needing to explain, that here, with you, there's no need to wear a mask. He doesn't need to hold back. He can be real. And in today's world, that kind of freedom, that kind of trust, it's incredibly rare. That's how a simple line becomes so much more. It doesn't just shape that one moment. It creates a ripple that moves through everything that comes after. It touches something much larger than sex or love. It speaks to legacy. Because when you connect physical passion with emotional truth, you plant something in him, a kind of awakening, a new version of manhood where vulnerability is not something to be ashamed of, but something that adds depth. That growth doesn't just live inside the bedroom. It starts to reach into his everyday life. He begins to search for that feeling again, not just with you, but in how he approaches everything. He begins to understand that being truly connected doesn't weaken him. It fills him. It makes him more whole. So never underestimate the quiet power of saying, I feel so close to you like this. It may sound small, but it becomes a bridge, a sacred crossing from pure sensation to soul-level connection. It weaves the fire of desire